Hey everybody, and welcome to the Worldwide Workshop. My name is Matthew, and with me as always is Justin.
This is a masterclass for early childhood educators.
A conversation about developing your excellence.
Each week we will share our perspectives, experiences, and mistakes on our journey toward better practice.
So sit down and listen up. Hey everybody.
Welcome to the Worldwide Workshop.
Today we're going to be talking about mentorship.
Excellent. Matthew,
Yes.
Can you tell me what is the importance of mentorship, or what is mentorship?
Sure, Justin.
Thanks.
So mentorship is a way to either learn or teach somebody who is, your mentor, they're your mentor. Not even teach them. Help them grow toward their excellence, to help them progress in their career or in their education, to challenge them, to support them, to be the sandpaper that makes them the shiny diamond, sort of thing.
We're getting to jewelry.
Oh.
So this reminds me recently of Pastor Matthew Thomas, who we took care of his daughter, and we met him, and he came into my class, and he put a picture in my mind about mentorship, and could you stand up? And if you put your hand one up high and one down low, you gotta be in the camera. It's like you're in the center, and your mentor's up here, and you're reaching towards them, and they're helping you up, but then you have this other hand, and that's bringing somebody else up. So then that's the way now I think of mentorship. And it reminds me of a sculpture at the North End Library. If you ever go by there, you should see it. That is a really nice photo. Image of helping and helping.
Well, I'm so glad you got me to stand up on camera. Thank you.
That's right. You've got to be prepared. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
Anyway, why is mentorship important? It's how we grow. Once you finish your training, you're not done. You've still got to learn, and you need people to help you learn.
Yeah.
So mentorship is kind of the way to do that, to go to that next step, to get a little bit better, to get a little bit more in depth, to get you out of being stuck sometimes if you're in a rut.
Video one.
So some mentors that have been important to me. I think of at the beginning of my career, my Aunt Jody. She gave me a job fresh out of high school, and she kind of just threw me to the wolves and said, "If you mess up, I'll let you know." And it was really terrifying because I had no idea at all what I was doing. But it was school-age care, so it was before and after school. I wasn't really responsible for their education. More so, it was, entertaining, fun, care at the time. It was the very beginning of my career. And she taught me a really good lesson. And she said, at school they have to be there, but here we have to make them want to be here because they don't have to be here.
And I think that has carried over your entire career. I think you have been passing that knowledge to other people that you've worked with.
That's right. Hand up, Jody. Hand down, everyone else. Make the children, make your students want to be there. And I mean, that can be not just child students, even your adult students in your program. I mean, even if you're in school and they do have to be there, you should still make them want to be there.
That's right.
It's just a lot easier, right? It makes your job easier.
My first mentor would probably be from when I started my education, which is back at Humber College in Toronto, and it would start with Vidya Ramprasad, and she is somebody who at that time was studying to do her PhD while working full-time and taking on all of these new 20-year-olds who had felt some kind of way. But she really, I didn't know if I wanted to be in this field or not. And she just kept saying, you have a gift and your gift needs to be shared. Who that's with is up to you. And so that in turn made me think, okay, what is it that I really want to do? And so through our conversation, she would just challenge me or ask me questions about something, or and it's basically like when I was studying some psychology or whatever, she would say, okay, well, how would you take that information and make it relatable to children?
Right. Yeah, I like how she told you have had a gift. That's another thing mentors do. They kind of point things out to you that you don't really see about yourself. They're
Yeah.
not always positive.
Yes.
They let you know you stutter a lot, you say a lot, you look down a lot, you're reading your notes too much. But they also tell you your conversational style is fantastic. The way that you take the pictures is really inspiring. Things like that as well. So, yeah, mentors point things out to you from an outsider's perspective and allow you to improve yourself.
Yeah, I think that's one of the main goals.
Yeah. Anyway, it's time for our first break. See ya.
Hey, are you looking for an ad space to promote your personal business? Just send us an email at justinwestart@gmail.com for your own audio ad and a shout out in our next YouTube video. We can include logos, photos, and other contact information for your business. Thanks and enjoy the rest of the video.
And we're back. So next I wanted to talk about like different ways that mentors can mentor you. And I wanted to start with Bobby and Annette at Peter Green Hall.
They should get paid for this.
They should get paid for the amount of times I say their name. You can have a percentage of our profits for every time I say your name. 1%. Right now, which is $0.
That's right.
You're welcome. Anyway, so Bobby and Annette at Peter Green Hall, when I first started there, it wasn't a lot of words. It was a lot of showing. I went into the room pretty green. I was maybe 2 years in the field working for my Aunt Jody. And I went to a different center to work. And when I got there, they were practicing something called Reggio Emilia Inspired Practice.
What is that?
And I was like, I have no idea what that is. Which later in that center evolved more into an emergent curriculum, which is what we practiced there for most of my time there. But yeah, they showed me in the way that they interacted with the kids, in the way that they set up the environment. I remember that was a big key for what I was learning from them, setting up the environment kind of as its own teacher, to help guide behaviors, to help provide opportunities, to help the children think. So yeah, when I watched them work, I would often ask questions. And I mean, that's, a key ingredient in kind of a mentorship relationship. You have to be willing to ask your questions, and you have to be willing to take the questions of the other person in that relationship as well. So I would often ask what they were doing, and they would tell me, show me. And I remember particularly trying to do the portfolios, and I was like, no. You're brand new. You don't need to do the portfolios.
That's right.
I will take them home and do them. And then I could see kind of the way that she did portfolios, that she had such a mix of what was included. And no two things would be kind of like back to back the same thing. If she had a really great photograph, the next page was not a really great photograph. It was a piece of artwork or a piece of written documentation, a written conversation, something like that. And she would always stagger them separately so that it read really well. Anyway, it helps me. Even today, I make sure when I'm doing portfolios to do that.
That's true.
And whenever people help me with portfolios and say they turn the page protector upside down so that when you hold the book, the page might fall out, I'm just like, why would you do that? Oh my goodness, it's so ridiculous. But I get that from Bobby showing me back in the day, and Annette showing me how to do portfolios.
And it gives you that inside laughing thing because you remember being in that position and now you're carrying that forward.
Yeah.
But I will say that I remember when Matthew would come home and talk about Annette and Bobby, and I was at a different center at the time, and I thought, oh, how lucky is he that he gets to work with these two people and it doesn't feel like work. He's just constantly learning and coming back home and talking about all these exciting things where Annette might be doing a solar system out of these things, and then she'll look at the kids and like, oh, you're not there yet. but she's like in her glory. But the kids are learning through that somehow. Anyway, I just wanted to work there and be a part of that.
Yeah. Well, eventually you did.
I did, yes. And in saying that, that's what brought me to when I did get to work there. Barb Bigelow was the director at the time, and she just looked at me. She's like, I got to give him a chance. And when doing that, she had this quiet approach to her where she would come into the senior classroom and she would sit at the lockers with like a, what is it called? A clipboard and a pen, and she would just sit there and she would just kind of like, do this little thing, and I'll be like, oh my god, what is she thinking? Am I saying the wrong thing? But then later when I'm out in the hall, she'll just come over and she says, I really liked how you talked about with the child or children. And then she would say, have you thought about this? And she would always say little random things to me in the hallway because her office moved right next door to my classroom.
Yeah.
And I felt like, oh my gosh, is she watching me? But because of those things that she was doing, she had such a quiet approach to everything. And I think that resonated with me a lot.
Yeah, well, when you were talking, the questions for me is what really resonates. Like the little questions,
Yes,
that give you an opportunity or a challenge to explain why you're doing what you're doing. Another mentor who did that really well for me was Ann Wein. I was working still at Peter Green Hall, still with Barb, still with Annette and Bobby, and at the time I was feeling very stressed at work. I thought Barb was unhappy with my work, and I was worried that things weren't going well. And Ann Wein came in to work with us once a week just to ask us basically, what are the children doing? What are you observing the children doing?
yeah.
And how can you show me that, what they're doing and what they're thinking about? And just little questions like that. And I was like, well, I notice, they're making kind of roadways on the floor. And then the next week would come and, oh, I've noticed they've been like counting how far away things are. So we started doing this mapping thing. And, I'd show her my pictures. The next week would come. I was taking pictures with them of different things around the classroom, and they've, made their own map of the classroom. And she'd have her questions. Oh, well, what do they know about maps? Like, do they know this only because it's in this space sort of thing? So then the next time it would be like outside to the playground sort of thing, and, show more of like the distance. And I'd show, she'd ask her questions. And eventually, after maybe, I don't know if it was 4 or 6 weeks, I can't remember how long it was. But it turned into this whole project exploration about maps and children's ideas of themselves in maps and what they believed the map represented. Was it just a collection of pictures, or did they understand the distance? Did the distance need to be included in the map? Things like that. And it led me to my first presentation, which was very overwhelming, and I was not the best. But I got through it. I told my story, and yeah. So that, yeah.
But I would say from that, being an outsider, like I wasn't a part of the center at that time yet, just listening to Matthew talking about all of the things that he was getting, I was starting to see him as a mentor. And I was like, oh, how can he do all these things? And then he would talk about the map making of how he documented the children moving through the classroom even, or going to walks and mapping that out by taking photographs and the children arranging all of that. And I thought, wow, I want to be able to document like that. I want to be able to share stories in that way. So that's how I looked at that. And I was like, oh, I just got to work there.
And we would walk to work together for a very long time. Sometimes we would walk an hour to work, depending on where we lived. And it was a really good time for us to engage in reflective dialogue.
Yes.
We would tell each other, what was going on in the classroom, and Justin would have his questions for me, and I would have to kind of justify, and he'd have his suggestions for what I could do next. And I would say, well, it's not about you, Justin, it's about the children. And
he doesn't see me as a mentor.
Not true. Sometimes, but it would take me, like I would take on his suggestion and try those things out in the classroom. And it was just such a special time for us to really kind of connect with each other about our profession, build our practice, build our theories, things
Yeah.
like that. So I really appreciated that time. So time is another thing that's needed in mentorship.
It is.
Yeah,
You're
time for
right.
conversation, time to sit and think about things, and really engage in reflective dialogue.
And really understanding what those words mean.
Yes.
Like it has to come from somewhere.
Which word? Which words?
Well,
like reflective.
reflective dialogue. I mean, it's not something that we casually say. We might be doing it, but then when you put the name to it.
Right. Okay. Well, just in case anybody out there doesn't know what I mean when I say reflective dialogue, I'm just going to start with dialogue. Dialogue is talking back and forth with another person, engaging
Like
in
this.
a mutual understanding to get to kind of a point where you know what you're talking about. And the reflective piece is that we're talking about what we've done and, you know, what we think went well, what we think we could improve on, where we think it's going, things like that. So just reflecting on it, you know, seeing what happened and trying to improve it, I guess. So that's what I mean by reflective dialogue.
And that leads me to my last mentor.
Well, we'll talk about that after the next break.
Soon. Hey, are you looking to do home improvements?
Yeah, but anyone I call doesn't show up, or the work they do just isn't great.
Well, you should try Perfect Tile and Flooring. Just ask for Moon. He can install bathrooms, kitchens, and a whole lot more.
Really? Have you seen his work though?
My bathroom felt like an indoor outhouse. Cracked tiles, stained tub, and holes to the outside world. Moon, from Perfect Tile and Flooring, came in and worked his magic. Our disaster bathroom was transformed into a relaxing oasis.
Really? He sounds great. How can I get a hold of him?
You can go to his Facebook page at Perfect Tile and Flooring. He is fully insured and accredited by the Better Business Bureau.
Wow, thanks, Justin. And we're back. So I know Justin was about to tell us about a mentor, but I'm going to ask a question, and hopefully his story about his mentor can answer it. So Justin, what do you look for in a mentor?
Well, first I will acknowledge who my mentor is that I'm talking about. And it's my current employer, Sunday Miller, who works at NSCC Akerley campus.
Justin likes his bosses to be his mentors. So
I do.
strange.
I do. And in this particular case, it's a black African Nova Scotian female in a position of making change in the early childhood field at program level, curriculum level.
Okay.
And I think for me, when I'm looking for a mentor, I was looking for somebody with like-minded philosophies
Okay.
in working with people.
Okay. So not even necessarily just children, but people in general.
With people in general. And she is the first African Nova Scotian or African Canadian employer that I've had. And when I think of myself and my identity, I am an African Canadian. And for having somebody in a position of that level, I'm looking up to her. And I was thinking, oh, how do I get to be in that, where she is? I want to be the chair of the early childhood department in the college. Like, that's where I want to be. And I'm not trying to take her job yet.
2 years into the field of teaching adults, he now wants to be the chair.
You know, she's made that possible.
Aim high.
Aim high. And I think it's through her conversations where when she doesn't know somebody or knows something, she'll look to me and she'll ask me a question like, who in the field does this? And she looks to us as experts and leaving that space that she hired me because she knows I'm an expert, but she's leaving room for more guidance. Does that make sense?
It does. It actually reminds me of Tina Fey's book, Bossy Pants. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
And she said in that, when to be a good boss, what you need to do is hire really talented people. And when you do, just get it other way.
Yeah.
And let them do what they do well.
Yeah.
And, you know, connect them with people that complement them.
Yeah. She's exactly that.
Yay, Tina Fey.
Yay, Sunday Miller.
Yay, Sunday Miller. I haven't worked for anybody of African descent in all my years. not that I'm that old, I'm 39, but I've not worked with anybody, not worked for anybody. I've worked with coworkers who were of African descent, but it was a different dynamic because I was never the person entering the space. I was always the person there first, and then the coworker would enter the space that I was already in. So there may have been, kind of a difference in, I don't know if power's the right word, but a difference in leadership. They would come into a culture that I've already established in the room, and
culture, you mean like
the classroom culture,
yeah,
the classroom community culture environment, and then they would work their way into that sort of thing. Working in a school age room, you get a lot of rotation. Anyway, that's not to do with mentors.
No.
So what do you look for in a mentor? You look for?
I look for someone to give me the space to do my thing.
Right.
But also help me focus. Like, know where to put my attention.
Yeah. And I think that maybe is specific to you because you like your mentors to be your bosses, apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
Because, for my mentors, I wouldn't need them to give me space because they're not in charge of me. They're not my employer. I'm not accountable to them. They're just people who inspire me that I have the opportunity to work with and learn from.
Right.
In different ways.
It could also be my upbringing where I looked at my elders as role models.
Elders.
Right? So maybe that's why I put them in those positions, because the three people that I've chosen have been in roles that were
your authority.
My authority.
Mm.
So that could be a cultural thing, perhaps?
Maybe it is a cultural thing.
So,
I would definitely not choose. Oh, I suppose actually my first one was Jody, and she was my boss at the time. She was the authority.
Your aunt.
She was also my aunt and my elder. Yeah, I guess Jody would be similar in that way.
So what do you look for in a mentor? What is a good mentor?
For me, a good mentor is somebody who challenges me, but is able to ask me questions without me being offended.
Or defensive.
Exactly. I don't feel that their intent is to knock me down a peg or, compete with me. And a good example of that is one of my mentors, Ann Wein. I was looking for her advice when I was making these videos and sent her a copy of the first one so she could give me some feedback. And her feedback was really harsh. And it was a lot of, I wouldn't say negative, just a lot of critique saying what I should do, what I could do, and so on and so forth. And I was just really appreciative of that. And I said, thanks for the feedback. I'll apply some of this. I can't apply all of it. She gives me an opportunity to grow from her perspective. But it is an opportunity, and it's something that I can choose or not choose. I mean, right. She gave me a long list of things that I could change about these videos. And, I took on a couple that I would change, but there are a couple that I wouldn't change.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the thing about mentors, and mentorship in general. It's offered, and it is taken advantage of, taken. It's not forced upon anybody. That's really important for me. So when I offer mentorship to my student teachers who come into the classroom, or new employees that come into the classroom, or even just centers that are looking for support, like Sarah and Lisa at Hex, shout out to Hex. They really wanted me to come down and offer my opinion about them developing their skills in documentation and emergent curriculum, and I was ready to do it. I came in and I said, hey, what have you got?
Yeah.
Lisa was really focused on getting into a deep conversation with children at the time. And she, in her first attempt, she kind of went around and made sure everybody had an answer to her question.
Right.
And I was like, okay, you've tried that. And what if, and I challenged her, what if you didn't get an answer from each child? What if you let kind of the children ask each other,
Yeah.
and you sit back and write? Or what if, one child's idea, they were the leaders of the questioning, and she took on that challenge and tried it out with the children, and had success with that. So yeah, it's all about an offering. It's all about everybody is involved and wants to work together, sort of thing, for mentorship. Yeah.
And just really quickly, I was thinking about while you were saying that, is when we think of what a good mentor is or how to be a good mentor, we've learned so much from the people that we've already discussed about, and then we apply it there. But the mentor is still mentoring us, where they're helping us develop our mentorship skills so that we can pass it on to other people. And that whole process is so wild to me when you step back and you reflect back on that, and you can watch your mentor still mentoring you over here, and they're watching you do it, and they're just seeing it happen, and then you're doing it to them. And it's like that thing where you see a child mimicking a parent's behavior. You didn't realize that they were copying or doing that, but then you're like, oh my gosh, I do that.
Yeah, that reminds me of working with Kelly, actually, at Peter Green Hall. She came into the center when I was established in the center, at least, and learned a lot about emergent curriculum from me. And she got to the point in the center where she's like, why is everybody practicing not doing these things? Like, why is everybody not getting down on the children's level, or whoever she was working with? And I was like, Kelly, you're to the point now where you are practicing at a certain level, and if it's not time to complain about other people, it's time to mentor them.
Yeah.
That's where I was a couple of years ago when you came in, and now it's your turn. The next challenge for you is to bring other people up with you, sort of thing. To go back to what Matthew Thomas was telling me at the beginning, Kelly was at that point, and I could see it in her that she had she was no longer just a learner. She was now also a mentor, and she had something to offer the new staff that were coming in.
Yeah.
She didn't think that she was in that position because there were still 6 or 7 people older than her in the center, or in the center for a longer time than her, and now. But there were also 6 or 7 people newer than her that she could really offer some insight to. So some guidance, yeah.
And maybe it's just the language. Maybe the word mentorship, when you say it, has a different attachment to a fear. So maybe you could call it something else.
Oh, you mean for Kelly, for her anxiety, the idea of being responsible for somebody else's learning.
Yes.
Might make her feel anxious. Yeah. So using a different word for Kelly specifically might be helpful,
or anyone else out there,
or anybody who's feeling anxious about being a mentor, just pass on your ideas, challenge somebody else.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all we have time for today. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the comment section below, or email
justinwestart@gmail.com. We also have Instagram or Facebook. You can also
find us
there.
Anyway, we'll see you next week. Bye now.
Bye.
Hey, Editor Mike here. One last thing. Make sure to go over to my channel, top link in the description, and subscribe. Also subscribe to the Worldwide Workshop for more weekly videos. Both are free and help a lot. Thanks, and see you guys in the next video. Peace.